Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help genre fiction authors sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here with Joe Lalo and Jeff Poole, and our very first guest tonight, Jason Chen. He's the founder of StoryBundle.com. We're going to pump him for information about his site and how he's marketing it and kind of what he's learned on putting together bundles and just how to be successful with that. So I think he's got a lot of great information. And hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, happy to be here.
Do you want to start out telling us a little bit about yourself and how StoryBundle.com came to be?
Sure. So I started StoryBundle back in 2012, and before that, I was the editor of Gizmodo and Lifehacker for a couple of years, and then before that, I was a software engineer. So StoryBundle came about when I had the idea of bundling books. Back in 2012, a lot of people were bundling, games and music, and that was really popular. But I didn't really see anybody bundling books, so I decided, why not me? It was a full-time job from the beginning. So I started StoryBundle with my wife, and we both worked on it for about 6 months, and then we launched it mid-2012. So we are a little bit past the 2-year mark, like 2.5 years now. Joe was one of our first authors in the very first bundle, which we called the Big Bang Bundle. And more to the point, how I started StoryBundle was I love ebooks. I think ebooks are kind of the future of mass consumption of reading. Books are not going to die out by any means, physical books. But as an ebook lover, I wanted a way to get more ebooks quicker, easier, and a better way to discover new authors that aren't, bestsellers or on any kind of, lists that you can easily just go down and buy. I wanted to find those people who were really good but didn't really have a big audience yet. So I put all these ideas together, bundling, which is good for discovery, good for buying at a reasonable price, and then just put it out there.
Very nice. And so this was kind of before all the bundles started showing up on Amazon and the other sites. Do you think they copied you, or?
No. I think bundling's a very, very basic idea. Comcast bundles, and everybody bundles stuff together. So it's not any kind of. I don't say that I have any kind of claim to the book bundling idea. So people who do books on Amazon, it would be slightly different from what we do, because from what I've seen, the price usually is a little bit lower than our bundles.
Right. And could you tell us a little bit how your site works? I've been to it, and I've been in one of your bundles, and it was totally an awesome experience, I just want to say. But
Sure.
yeah, for the visitor, what's in it for them?
Sure. So when you go to StoryBundle, you can see one of our couple bundles that are live at any time. For example, right now we have a thriller bundle, and we have a bundle that's for National Novel Writing Month. That's 12 books that are designed to help you get a novel out there, as well as how to market it, how to edit it, and some more stuff on the business side. So when you go there, you pick a bundle that you're interested in, and you get to pick how much you want to pay for it, how much of your purchase goes to the authors, how much goes to StoryBundle to keep us running, and whether or not you want to donate to one of our charities. And right now, our two main charities are Girls Right Now and Mighty Writers. They're both writing-based charities. So when you pick all these attributes, how much you want to pay, where your payment goes to, you can then pay using one of our PayPal, Amazon payments, and credit card payment sources. Once you do purchase, we send the books directly to you, or we can send it to your Kindle account on your Amazon account, and that'll go directly to your Kindles and your Kindle apps.
All right, great. And kind of how many books do you guys usually put together, and like what's a ballpark price that people might pay?
So if you take the thriller one, for example, that's a pretty decent example. That one has 8 books in it. We usually try to range around 6 to 9, give or take, maybe about 7 or 8 is the usual number. We try not to go too high or too low. We found that's kind of the sweet spot. And people usually pay around the bonus price. And the bonus price, how that works is, if you pay any price down to a minimum of $3, you get the normal books. So in this case, it would be 4 books. And if you pay the bonus price, you get 4 more books, or the bonus books. So how it works usually is that most people do pay the bonus price. So on average, you get around $12 consistently through all the purchase. Some people pay more, some people pay less, but it's usually around the bonus price. So whatever that is, that's around the average.
Nice. And how do you go about getting authors for your bundles?
So we have 2 main ways. One is for people to send in submissions, which we go through and our curators go through. And the second way is using our curators, which Joe has been one a few times. And he goes and finds books, and then we give him some of our submissions. Excuse me. We give him some submissions, and he goes and finds other authors, and which is one thing I really love, because authors definitely know other authors, and they know quality authors that may not have the followings that they deserve. So bringing them on into a bundle is a good way for them to get more exposure, and it's a good way for authors to know as curators, oh, this person, this author feels similarly to my work. That when you read my work, you feel a certain way, and it won't be so jarring to jump from my work to their work. So having authors curate these bundles for us is a pretty good thing for everybody, I think.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it sounds like you usually do a theme. Do you think that's pretty important to make it attractive to the visitors?
I think so. We usually focus on one specific genre per bundle. What we found is that gets the most amount of enjoyment per bundle. For example, we did one a little while ago, maybe about a year ago, that was mixed genre, and that didn't sell very well because as a reader, you kind of know what you like and you kind of know what you don't like, and unless you're just out there to read anything, you don't want to jump into horror if you're not a horror fan, or if you're not a romance fan, you don't want to pick up romance, or if you don't like sci-fi, and so on. So what we found is that if we have a mix of 8 books, that limits the potential ceiling of enjoyment that a reader would get. So at most you could read maybe 4 of them that you would like, without even getting to just not liking a book because you don't feel like you don't like the book. So we found that having very narrowly focused genres is the way to go, because if you like sci-fi, you have 8 sci-fi books to choose from, and usually because the way we curate it, it's similar in theme, so that it won't be a bunch of steampunk mixed with epic fantasy or kind of weirdly meshed genres. So I think that's the way to go, at least for us anyway.
Yeah, I can definitely see where people would have their preferences and want to get some good stuff that they know they'll enjoy. It seems like you kind of do a mix of traditionally published authors and indie authors. Is that true, and has that changed at all over time?
Right, that's what we do. We originally focused more on indie authors because we love indie authors, but we've moved into bundling traditional authors with indie authors, and that's worked out well because the traditional authors are, on the whole, generally speaking, have a larger fan base because they've been published before. They've already gotten their name out there. So by bundling both of these groups together, it's a nice way to say, okay, here's let's see, who is a famous person we just had? Neil Gaiman. Here's Neil Gaiman plus some indie authors that are as good as you would probably enjoy it, and here's a bundle with all of them in it. So you take that and you you go, okay, Neil's name brought me in, but oh, I found these new authors that are, just happen to be my favorites now because they're just as good. So it's a great way for people to discover authors that they have not heard about before, as well as, if they're already fans of a traditionally published author, they go and their fans bring in more fans and, kind of mix it all together.
Yeah, that's great. And for future reference, I'd be totally okay with being in a bundle with Neil Gaiman, just in case that comes up.
Right. We'll do. I'll
Okay.
get that.
When you're working with traditionally published authors, do you have any problems getting the rights to include their books in the bundles?
Sometimes it depends on their publishing situation. For example, a lot of authors do traditional publishing and self-publishing at the same time. So it's easy to find their self-published books and bring those on. What's harder is that if you find a book with a major publisher that's not a backlist book, the major publishers are not quite as friendly to bundling as the smaller publishers or the indie publishers or indie press. So in that sense, it limits your audience. I mean, it limits the potential a little bit because you can't get your Harry Potters, your big books. But all those authors do self-publish a lot, and they're always looking for a new way to get their work out there and get some new fans. So it's not too difficult to get these authors on board. It's just a matter of finding one of their works that would work with us.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the questions I have. So I'm going to hand you over to Joe for some marketing stuff. I'm sure that's what everybody's really interested is how you made this work so well. So
Sure.
take it over, Joe.
All right, yeah, so marketing. I was in the first bundle, as you say, and it did pretty darn well. I mean, the book, I had 2 books in it, I think, and combined they made more in the bundle than they had made in the previous year. So even that first bundle did very well. How did you go about getting the word out for your bundles in the beginning and going onward?
So the very beginning was a unique experience because it was kind of a new concept at first. So a lot of the tech sites that, since I came from Gizmodo, they're familiar with me. So a lot of the tech sites, TechCrunch, The Verge, Engadget, those kind of Techie CNET, those kind of techie sites, those covered us as a concept. So you can purchase ebooks online in a bundle, and they were all into the idea of the bundling at first. So that got us a lot of press, and then subsequently we had to go look for other non-techie sites to pick us up. So more book blogs, more book forums, more a kind of publishing type sites. So, but at the beginning it was because it was a new concept. People were interested about how does this work? How do you bundle stuff together? How do you charge? How does this pay what you want thing work? So it's kind of different now, but that's how it worked at the beginning.
Okay, I remember early on how we were getting picked up just for the novelty of
Right.
of the concept. So, speaking of marketing on places that aren't traditionally author marketplaces like tech blogs and stuff like that, you think that it was really important early on to get us get StoryBundle on the map? And do you think that it's the sort of thing that maybe authors might try to do, is target non-author advertising venues?
I
Or
think
marketing
so.
venues?
Right. For us, it was definitely important because we needed to get awareness of what we were doing. For authors, I think it is kind of an untapped resource because if you go to say Reddit, you don't need to focus specifically on the books Reddit subreddit or the whatever subgenre of writing you read to, sci-fi or horror. You can go, and if your book, for example, has far future concepts, you can go and find some kind of similarity. Say, if you wrote a book similar to the game BioShock, because it has similar themes, you can go to video game forums and pitch it that way and say, oh, this book is very similar to Bioshock. If you like this, you might try picking it up, or go into space like Doctor Who if it's similar in theme to one of their episodes, since they have 5 million episodes. You can go in Doctor Who forum and pitch it to them, and then don't make it too pushy. I don't need to tell you that, but don't make it too sales-like, so that you're saying read this, and it feels like like an advertisement. But try to work it in naturally, like you're working in a conversation with talking to somebody. You don't just start off by saying, "Hey, here's my book. Buy it." You want to kind of get into the community a little bit. So the forums are a great way to get your book exposed. Tech sites, especially CNET, some of the nerdier sites, they may be interested in specific kind of sci-fi concepts if it's relevant to the news. For example, if back when the NSA stuff was going on, big news back then, if you had more surveillance stuff in your book, you could pitch it, and then if you, let's say, while you were gathering info for when you were writing, you interviewed some kind of cryptologist or NSA person or someone in the government, that's something you can talk to them about and say, hey, this book is about crime or cryptography or something, but you wouldn't believe what I heard from this source I talked to. He told me XYZ about how the government knows you ate a sandwich the other day, and how that fits into your story. So that kind of creative thinking about how to approach getting the word out is very valuable. I think if you have a bunch of different kind of themes in your book, or a bunch of different little tidbits you threw in and you didn't think very much of when you're writing it, but maybe it would be something to expand out and say, oh, I have this cool part of my book that you might be interested in.
It's good. It's good information, because I mean, again, early on, I sort of thought the thing that made StoryBundle valid for tech sites and stuff is because it was a novel technical concept. I hadn't really thought that you can really include your book in a conversation on any site that has a certain subject, as long as your subject matter contributes to the conversation. So that's I mean, not so useful perhaps for fantasy, but for sci-fi writers, that can really help you out. Unless, I don't know, maybe find a metaphysics forum or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you do these bundles, obviously every bundle is going to have multiple authors, and then each author can promote. How heavily do you rely upon the authors to help promote the bundle?
So the way we work is that when the bundle goes out, we have our own newsletter that we send out an email blast to, and we encourage our authors to promote to their newsletters, their Twitter feeds, and their Facebook. However they normally promote their books, we encourage them to reach out to their fans, and whatever kind of relationships they've built up in the past promoting their books, we would like them to go and tap and reach out to them, because we heard about them through certain channels. That say one author introduced their friends. It doesn't mean that that's the only way to get their book out to people. So of course they already have a built-in audience, unless they're a completely brand new author, in which case they have no audience. But most authors already have knowledge of how to promote, so that we kind of expect them to do that too. How it works is that there's a big spike at the beginning of the bundle when all our fans come in, and then all the authors' fans come in, and we all kind of pool our resources. So when one author promotes, they can say, "Oh, Joe's book is in this bundle, and this is what the book's about," and they can go, subsequently down the list of books in the bundle and one by one pitch it to their own audience. And when every author does that, their fans kind of intermingle. So everybody's fans, kind of mix with everybody, and you have more fans in the end.
How much does it, like an author's platform, the size of their audience, factor into when you're choosing authors for a bundle? Like, have you picked one author over another just because they would have had a better capacity to promote a bundle?
It's very rare that we do that. Most of the time, we look at the promotional aspect last. First, we figure out what genre we want to do, and then we try to fill it out with as many really good books as possible. So the overriding concept is that we want to have good books and with high quality authors and writing in it. And then if we're doing a bundle that say just is too big, we'll think about spreading it into 2 bundles. To say if we found 15 authors with 15 books that we wanted to put in a bundle, we can say, all right, let's do 8 and 7 or something. How do we want to split it up? Oh, okay. Let's make sure authors with big fan bases aren't all in one bundle. Let's kind of do half and half so that we have a good balance of people who promote a lot with people who are just beginning or starting out and trying to learn how to get their work out there. So it's very rare that we have to choose between 2 authors, and it's even more rare when it says, oh this person has a huge audience versus that person has a tiny audience. It usually doesn't come down to that.
Okay. Now, again, I know how much I made in the bundles that I was in, and I was very happy with it. Are you comfortable maybe sharing about how many bundles typically sell in an average bundle?
Sure. It varies by genre. Certain genres sell a little bit less just because of the concept of bundling and the way that we purchase books, which is not through Amazon, not through a traditional ebook site or Apple. So people have to be a little bit more tech savvy to, 1, have heard of us, and 2, be comfortable enough with their computers or ebook readers to go and buy books not from Amazon. So that whittles down the audience a little bit in certain genres like romance, and I've said mostly romance. So we get a more techie audience, sci-fi, fantasy, some horror, some thriller. That kind of audience usually gravitates towards us. Okay, so back to your question, how many do we sell? The fantasy bundles sell very well. They do around, I want to say, average about 3,000 bundles sold. Some do better, some do worse. It really depends on the authors that are in it, and how many books and what books are in it, and even on what time of year it is. So certain bundles probably do a little bit worse, and certain bundles do better. But I would say on average about 3,000.
And that's a good number for. I mean, bundles usually last just a few weeks.
Right. Our standard length is around 3 weeks, which I think is a good amount of time, because just speaking personally, when I hear about a bundle, I usually don't purchase right away unless I'm really keen on one of the books. So I see it and then I go, okay, that's neat. I'll come back when I have more time. And then before you know it, the 3 weeks are up and you probably missed it. So 1 or 2 weeks I think is a little bit too short to do it. A month is slightly too long depending on the bundle. So it's kind of a sweet spot that we found is around 3 weeks. It gives people enough time to purchase, but there's kind of a ticking clock. If you go past that, the deal's over.
Yep. All right. So I know that we've got that Story Bundle's got a newsletter. I've done a few things to help build the newsletter. How big of a role do you think Story Bundle's newsletter plays in the launch of a bundle?
I think it's pretty big, especially for the first day. I can tell because certain bundles, just because of timing, I don't send out a newsletter the first day, and you can tell there's no huge spike as it would be if there was a newsletter. I think that's fairly similar to a lot of authors. If they have a sizable newsletter, they can reach out to their fans and they will go and purchase. So I think having a newsletter is pretty important as an author, but that's not easy to do. It's not. You can't just say, hey, sign up for my newsletter and people probably won't do it unless they get something out of it, a free book or, I don't know, news about your dog or something. It has to be something in it for them to just have your emails go to their inbox, because everybody has a lot of newsletters that they get signed up for. It's a hard thing to get people to sign up.
Yep, absolutely. I know that for the Story Bundle newsletter, we've in the past I've offered up some of my backlist stuff as newsletter incentives and stuff. So I know that having a little treat in there for the people is a good way to get people to sign up.
Right.
I don't know if you know this or not, but how many people picking up bundles do you think are repeat buyers?
I've looked at the stats, and it's a lot more than you would think. If I had to put a number on it, I would say at least 60% are repeat buyers, maybe even 70. We've done data analysis on the purchases, and because we don't track anybody, all we have is their email. So if somebody uses a different email, we have no idea that this is the same person. So as long as you use the same email address, that you don't change it, we can tell one person has bought multiple bundles, and it's pretty high. Once you get into the system, into the bundling concept, and you're familiar with it, and you've set up your Kindle account to work with us, it's very easy just to go click and purchase another bundle. So we have a lot of repeat people that just the fact that they're repeat customers tell us that, they like what we're doing.
All right, I know that I've heard from people who discovered my books because of the bundles, and that all of my books have been in a bundle pretty much at this point, which is nice. I've had people say, "Oh yeah, I read your book from one of the other bundles, and I went to buy your others, and then I realized that I already owned them because I bought all the other bundles." Back to marketing though. Social media, how big of an impact and how important is it, do you think, to the promotion of these bundles?
I think it's pretty important. It's hard to make something go viral, as everybody knows. You can't really help it. So when you market a bundle, and this is just very specific to the bundling concept, it helps to have people with viral type names, which is to say slightly more famous people. Those help a lot, because when you go to read a book, or when you discover a book, you have the name, you have the title, and you very rarely have a synopsis of what the book's about. You have the cover also. So if you're looking on Twitter or Facebook, it's hard to, by those three things, quickly tell if you like this book or not. But if you have a famous name that you're somewhat familiar with, and someone says, "Oh, this bundle, check out this cool bundle that has Joe," and if you're already a Joe fan, you would go and pick it up because you're like, "Oh, this is a new book," or "Oh, I can get a book that's similar to Joe's, with cool books that Joe thought I would like to read." So because of that kind of virality concept, social media is very important. But it's hard to pound that every day and say, buy my book, and then come back the next day, oh, my book's on sale, and then the next day, oh, did you see my book? It's in a bundle. And that kind of wears thin on your audience, so you don't want to kind of hit them up all the time. But if you can have some kind of cool concept behind it, let's say, oh, if you buy this bundle and sign up for my newsletter, you can get a free book, or oh, if you buy this and share it to a friend, you can get a free book. So some kind of incentive to get people to share. If you can do that, it helps a lot. But I would say definitely have a social media account. You would be surprised if some of the authors that aren't on Facebook or Twitter or any, maybe even LinkedIn, they're just not there. They're focused completely on their writing, which is good for traditional published authors. But if you're a self-published author, as you know, you need to do the marketing yourself, and getting on social media is a very good way to talk with your fans. So it is quite important, both for bundling and just for being an author, I would say.
That's been my observation as well. I've got two more questions before we toss it over to Jeff for the last section. First, would you say like blogging and guest posts on other people's blogs is a useful tactic for
I think
promotion?
I think so. Well, the short answer is that everything you do is going to be useful in some way. Just the mere act of doing it gets you kind of in the mode to market your stuff better, because it's a very different kind of mind state that you have to be in when you're writing versus going and talking to your fans and selling your books. So maybe you set aside the morning to write, or the evening to write, or however you want to do it, and then but set aside an hour or two to do the marketing side of self-publishing, getting deals done, getting your work onto forums and setting up deals, that kind of stuff. It's not always easy to switch back and forth, so each person has their own preferences. But I think it's very important to do that every day, just so you have, because when you think about becoming a writer, you don't think about marketing, right? You think about writing a book. But as a self-published author, it's so important to do all the other stuff along with the writing. If you don't have good work, nobody's gonna read you. But if you do have good work, it's important to get it out there.
Yeah, that's basically why we have this podcast, because of the challenges involved. Okay, so last thing, advertising. Have you experimented with it at all, and do you have any advertising methods that you think are recommended versus to be avoided?
Well, because we're doing bundles, it's slightly different, but I think it overlaps a lot. What I found is that Google ads are the worst, because people don't really search for specific books when they're on Google. They know what they want, right? They don't just go to Google and type in horror books, right? So even if you're highly ranked, it would probably not mean anything to anybody to have your book come up on the right side when they're searching for a specific thing. But I found Facebook is pretty useful. If you can have your cover there, have a little blurb about your Facebook, your book on there, a little catchy, which is a little bit salesman-y, kind of a blurb that may be, for example, you've been on Facebook and you've seen those Facebook games sell their game as something completely different. I'm not saying to do that, but you need to have the mindset of be very, very pushy, very to the point when you're doing Facebook ads, versus Google ads, which is kind of all over the place. I would not recommend Google ads when you're doing books. There are other ones that authors are familiar with, signing up for the newsletter blasts. That has been okay for us, not fantastic. I think because people who sign up for newsletters either don't read them, or they read them and they're interested in deals, like free books, or a book that was $3.99 is now 99 cents, that kind of stuff. For us, a $10 or $12 bundle may not be what those people are looking for. So, but if you do have your book that's $3.99 and you're discounting it, doing that kind of newsletter blast is a good way to get your book out there, because in that limited amount of time, supposing it's a limited sale, you want the most amount of people to see your sale as possible. So that's pretty good. Other kind of marketing, physical marketing, that has been less successful for us because we're all digital, and I think a lot of self-published authors are mostly digital. So having something that you can physically touch and then having to say, oh, go to this address to buy my book, there's kind of one more step of work that most people aren't willing to do. So I would probably say don't even bother with physical ads. But those three are our main ones. What have you seen that's good as far as advertising goes?
I've found newsletter blasts. Like I will always mention BookBub because that's the most impact I've ever had from an ad. I also have seen Facebook ads. We talked about it last week, being a decent one too. So I'm on the same page with you. But I think that's all I've got on my list. So now we're gonna send it to Jeff. He's gonna talk about authors doing their own bundles.
Cool.
Alrighty. The first question I've got is: say you're an indie author, you're getting ready. I mean, you're first time published and you're self-published, and you're looking to possibly create your own bundle. Do you have any tips for doing something like that? I mean, how important is the cover? And I do have the question about the cover. Do you find it more important to say have the title for every single book on the cover, the author's last name on the cover, or do you do something different?
Okay, so that's kind of a three-part question. So for the cover, I would say having the name and the title is very important. Unless you have a really, really big name or you're in a bundle with some very recognizable names, most people seeing that name probably it means nothing to them. So having the title there at least can describe in 2 or 3 words or however long your title is what your book is about. And it's another kind of catchy thing to say, oh, your book is about spaceships or horses. So to get that point across quickly rather than just your name and people are left guessing from the artwork what your book is about. So that is that part of the question. The other cover question is the covers are extremely important. For self-published authors, I would say people are getting better at this now. When I first started Story Bundle, I got a lot more submissions with substandard covers. Let's just put it that way. People don't find it that important to put money into a good cover, where it's very, very, very important, as important as the book itself, because this is what people look at. People are visual. They're going to make their buying decision based on what they see as well as what they read about the book. So you can have a very, very thrilling synopsis, very good blurbs, other authors recommending it. But if you see a cover that was done in a non-professional way, you're going to be turned off by it as a reader. So definitely spend a lot of money. Joe has told me the story about how he made a new cover for his book very, very early on, and that made a huge difference in how well the book sold. So that is very important. So when you're doing a bundle with various authors, various genres, if you have to, it's very important that all the covers are high quality, because if there's going to be one low quality cover, that will bring down the perceived value of the entire bundle. So you want to make sure everybody's cover on there is up to par. And the other thing, once it is up to par, you want to make sure that the covers fit thematically together, more or less. There's only so much you can do because you're not going to go and make new covers for everybody. But you don't want to have one totally stand out as weird or not fitting in with the other covers. So, for example, if you have covers with concepts on it rather than people, and you have one that's a person, that would feel a little bit odd. It's not a big deal, but if you're trying to maximize how you're gonna sell your book, you want to kind of think about small things like this. How the covers look together. Is it kind of the same art style more or less? Is it all dark colors and there's a bright colored one? That kind of minutia you have to think about when you're constructing a bundle. And I forgot what the first part of your question was.
Well, yeah, actually, you covered it. I was asking how important a good quality cover is, and you pretty much hit that one right on the head.
Okay. It is very important. I would say if you're on the fence about spending money for a professional author to do your cover, don't be on the fence. You should do it.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Next question I have is, you touched on earlier where if you said if you have a very well-known author, a couple of them, and you like to kind of split them up so you can only don't need to have a whole bunch of well-known authors in one same bundle there. How easy is it? Have you found it when you actually talk to these well-known authors? Are they open to the idea of bundling their books, provided they're allowed to?
Right. For us, they are. One of the benefits for us is that we have curators. So curators or authors, the authors know other authors. And when you're friends with somebody, you would say, hey, I've been in this bundle before, this story bundle. This is how it works. You should check this out because I found it great, and I think you should, you would find it great too. If you hear that as an author, you would go, okay, sure, sign me up. But if you're going and approaching somebody, out of the blue and just cold calling them and say, oh, I'm from so-and-so and we're making a bundle out of this, it's a little bit more difficult. It's not impossible, but what you need to do is be very upfront about what you're doing and say, oh, I'm making a bundle of, these authors, and list out the authors and tell them, this is the genre, this is what we're doing, would you like to be a part of it? Most of the time, people will say yes, much more often than you would think. Even the well-known authors that, maybe are too busy or whatever kind of roadblock you're setting up for yourself in your head, they probably aren't thinking about that at all. Just pitch them and say, I'm doing this. Would you like to be part of it? Most of the time, you'll get a yes answer. Sometimes you'll get a no, but not just because they're just going to dismiss you outright. They're busy, but they have their priorities too. So I would say it's not very difficult as long as you approach it in the right way.
Alrighty, that's good to know. The other question I have is, you probably have seen so many people are bundling together now to try and get their books out there and making it like 99 cents for like I don't know, like 8, 9, 10 titles, and I see a lot on Apple. I mean, heck, I'm part of one of them, and all these authors are willing to take a loss in order to try and get their books out there. Yet you guys are doing the exact reverse, where you're bundling them all together and making it more expensive, and hoping to try and attract readers that are willing to pay that much. I mean, do you have any tips to trying to find these readers that are willing to pay that extra amount for it?
Sure. I would say the type of reader that wants a 99-cent for 10-book bundle is slightly different from the reader who's looking for, let's say, a $12 for 8 or 10-book bundle. And that's not to say one is better than the other, because they're both really good. And everybody wants low price books. If you're being honest, everybody would rather pay less for the same amount. So what we found is that authors who bundle, let's say, 99 cents as a loss leader, they do it to get people reading their other books. For example, if you have a 3-part trilogy, you can sell the first one or give it away for free, essentially, in that bundle. And then the more people read that first book and like it, the more people will go and buy your part 2 and part 3. For us, it's a little bit different because we can't really take a loss like that as an organization. Because we're not selling part 2 and part 3, the authors will go and get the benefit of the readership outside of our bounds. So what we're saying is that we can do bundles for $10 or $12 and have that still be a good deal for people to then go and purchase part 2 and part 3. So it's kind of a different kind of concept. It's not quite a loss leader concept because we still need to make money and the authors deserve to make money. But we do sometimes give away books like Joe has as a newsletter sign-up bonus. So that could be, part 1 of a Permafree book series. So that one's already free. We give it away for free, and then they can go and purchase part 2, in the bundle, and then say part 3 wherever else it's sold. So when you're constructing that kind of lower price bundle, you have to be aware of what kind of books you're putting in. If that is the only book you have out there, you probably wouldn't want it to be in kind of a loss leader bundle. unless you have more books to sell. But maybe you're just interested in getting a bigger fan base at this point. It depends on how you're seeing your marketing strategy, and I can't make that decision for people, but that's up to authors to decide.
Okay. Do you feel that you've had additional advertising or promotional opportunities by putting together a site that's dedicated to bundles as opposed to simply putting your bundles on Amazon?
For us, yes. For the authors, I would say putting your bundles on Amazon has the benefit of being listed on Amazon, and some you readers can find your book when they're browsing Amazon. But for us, it's more of a active rather than passive kind of engagement with the authors. So the authors go and market to their fans and talk to their readership and say, here's a new project I'm working on with all these other authors that you would be interested in. When you're doing it on Amazon, you can do that, but you're counting on a lot of people to kind of stumble upon your bundle. So it's much more enticing, and just speaking as a human being, when you get money out of something, you're more willing to do it. So as an author, if you see that you're making money from this bundle, you're more apt to go and tell people about it, rather than some kind of more nebulous, oh, people are getting it, and then I'll make money later when they finish reading it and get the later books in the series. So it's kind of different in that way.
Alrighty. I've got a question regarding the Permafree titles. Do you think Permafree can or should play a role in the bundles? And do you think a bundle should ever be made Permafree?
If you're speaking on Amazon, is that even possible to do a Permafree bundle on Amazon? Just a bundle of free books?
Well, Amazon typically will not make anything free unless you price match them with somebody else who is free. So I would like to say it's probably conceivable that it could be if you tell Amazon, hey, Barnes & Noble's got the same thing for free, why don't you make it free? And eventually they probably would.
Right. So I would say a Permafree bundle is similar to a 99-cent bundle in that 99 cents is a pretty negligible amount of money. So the other thing to think about is the psychology of how much you pay for books. What we found and what we read is that the more you pay for books up to an extent, the higher quality that you assign to your purchase. This is true for other kind of bundles too, like video game bundles. For example, if you're paying $1 for a video game bundle and you get three or five games in it, you're probably not going to treasure or value those games in that bundle as much as if you bought them separately for full price. So, as speaking from a book concept, when you're paying $1 or $2 for a bundle, you can kind of take it or leave it. If you don't get around to reading it, that's not a big deal. But if you're paying a little bit more, you're kind of intrinsically saying, okay, I'm more invested in this book or this group of books, and you'll probably get around to reading that more likely than you would be if you got it for free, especially. For free, I know I've gotten a lot of stuff for free just because, why not? It's free. And then just never touched it, whether that be games or books or whatever. I just get it, and then it's sitting there. But if I pay a little bit, even if it's $1 or $2, you think, okay, I bought this thing, I might as well enjoy it. So from that aspect, you might be better off putting a price on it rather than just giving it for free, because people may think, oh, why is this free? What's the catch? But when you have even $1 on it, you think, oh, this is a good deal, rather than, oh, this is free.
Okay. Yeah, so you've covered a lot of the questions I've got here. I guess the final question I would have is when you're addressing someone who's getting ready to create their own bundle, what's the easiest way to handle the payouts going to multiple authors?
The way we do it is mostly using PayPal, and we we use checks and whatever. Some corner cases of some authors, maybe in another country, need a special payment system. But when you're creating a bundle as an author, it's important to talk about this with your other authors beforehand and figure out, okay, let's say one person will take all the proceeds and divvy it out. Give them a deadline and say, okay, I'm going to pay everybody by December 15th. Get everybody's payment information ready beforehand. Get their tax information ready beforehand. So there's no holdup in after all the funds are collected, having to disperse that amongst 6 to 8 people. Having all that prepped beforehand is very, very important. Having somebody that, I don't want to say is reliable, but having someone who is around a lot. So it's not somebody who needs to go on vacation, or somebody who is very busy with their day job, or kind of not contactable often. Don't have that. Have somebody who is reachable, is responsive, to take charge of the payment stuff. All pretty straightforward stuff, but you should think about that as you're building the bundle, and rather than just think about what book should be in it. You have to think about the logistics side and make sure everything's done as professionally as possible so that there's no miscommunication, misunderstanding. You probably also want to get stuff in writing. For us, we have license agreements and contracts, but if you're doing it on your own, you say doing an Amazon bundle, you probably don't need to go that far, but you should maybe have something in writing and say, I'm going to be in this bundle with so and so. This is the agreement, and have that kind of spelled out before you're going to enter into any kind of joint collaboration with authors you're not familiar with. If it's your friends, the authors that you already know, it's not a big deal. But if you're jumping into a bundle with strangers, you want to be meticulous and say, okay, how is this going to work? And can we establish all the major points beforehand?
Always definitely good to hear. I think that wraps up the questions I have. Lindsay, back to you.
All right, remember to unmute myself here. No, that's really great information tonight, and we appreciate you being here with us, Jason. Would you like to... The dog has an opinion on it. Would you like to tell us about what's available on your bundle site right now and any future projects you have coming up, and where people can find you?
Sure. Well, people can find me on StoryBundle.com. That's story and the word bundle. It's pretty straightforward. Right now we have the 2 bundles that I was mentioning before. Tomorrow we have a new bundle coming out that is a bundle full of funny books or humor books. And we have, I don't know if you're familiar with people from the state, the comedy troupe, those Michael Wayne and those kind of people. They're in that bundle, and we have some pretty famous people coming up in subsequent bundles. But tomorrow is a funny book bundle that I'm sure everybody will like because everybody likes funny stuff. So you can find me on StoryBundle. Just go to StoryBundle. You can see whatever bundles we have live, and we rotate them out every week or 2, depending on the schedule and depending on when we can get all the stuff in. So go to StoryBundle.
All right, great. And everybody that's on listening to this podcast in the next few days, definitely, he's got a whole bunch of NaNoWriMo tips for business, writing, and that sort of stuff up there right now. It looks like a great deal, so check that out for sure. And I guess that's about all we have. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see everyone later.
So long.
All righty.
Goodbye.